Hello, this is take two. This is our garden. It's Friday evening, relaxing after a very heavy day with family, doing this, that and the other. Lots of walking, lots of driving. Thinking of, changing the tack a little bit. Thinking of this concept of being a heroic failure, title of a book I read many decades ago. I think that God does allow us to fail, and if you're going to fail heroically, even better. At least you've got some sort of gold stars and ticks against your account if you're doing it heroically. But if we succeeded all the time, sometimes we start thinking it's our own strength, and I'm glad to say that I've had many failures in the past, and particularly when it's the extent of looking for money, financing. And I think if I ever got financing for any given project that I can think of, thank goodness I didn't. I would have made a complete mess of it. It was like it was of the wrong time, or it would have taken me along the path that is not a good path. And I remember going right back in my career when I was just so naive. This is an absolute failure. When I first set up a software house, I was very young. For me, I was no business sense at all. Suddenly there was an interest in some computer games I wrote. We had one order from Boots for 5,500 of them, and everything went to my head. Suddenly money was coming in. What I didn't do is sort of plan for the future or realise that what goes up can come down. So what do? I took bad advice. I ended up having an office, spending a fortune on advertising and all that, and at the end of the day it virtually bankrupted me, and we had to second mortgage our house. Everything went belly up, and I had employees. I think I had 5 employees. I had to make them all redundant. It was a complete mess. If someone had come in and bailed me out, I don't think they would have done me any favours there. And I wasn't a believer then, but even since I was a believer, again, many failures. Some of them a bit weird, expecting to have financing from a certain corner. One of them, which I don't think I've mentioned, it was mid-90s, and it was a TV project. There wasn't Christian TV at the time, and this chap from Switzerland had this idea for a TV channel in England. He'd already got it working in Switzerland in a small way, but he wanted it to come over to England, and he got a little team together, and I was somehow on the team. I think I was going to look after the website of it, whatever, but the whole thing had to be financed, and the financing was going to be through this Nigerian chap who had invented a brand new computer chip. Now we all took his word for it. He was a lovely bloke, and who knows what was going on there, but all I know that the outcome was that he was sent over to Japan, like one of the big companies who invited him over to Japan. He went to Japan, and no one ever heard from him again, and he was going to put up millions to finance this whole thing. That took a whole year out of my life, and that was absolute heroic failure. Again, if the money had come through and I'd been part of that, and there's some pretty high profile people involved, I think it would have led me along a wrong path. And similarly, I've been associated with Premier Radio and Revelation TV, and in both cases there were times when I could have been more of a permanent fixture, but for various reasons, misunderstandings or quirks of fate, or I'd like to say hand of God, I was kept independent. I've always been on the outside. Always. I've written these books, I suppose you would call them for the Messianic community. And at the beginning, I was fated by the Messianic community. I was going around giving talks, and they all stopped my books and pushing me left, right and centre. Well, one by one they've all dropped me. I can't get any distribution. There's no interest in my latest book. There's no interest in really any of my books. I'm trying to give them away. I even offered these Messianic ministries to have boxes of my books free of charge, and no interest. And it's made me realise that failure can seem to be failure, but I think God sometimes pushes you into a situation of failure in order to make you successful in other ways, perhaps to guide you along a path that you couldn't even see because you were so sucked into other people's visions. And that's the thing, I think, that the one thing I have learned is be very wary of other people's visions, particularly in the Christian world, because I have my own visions, and that's bad enough. And I've had plenty of visions when I've thought I've got some financing, only for the rug to be pulled under my feet at the last minute, and I've hardened to it, so here I am at a crossroads. I think was it last week or the week before, you actually saw me at the sewer bank making this proclamation, and what it is, it's saying, at an age where most people would retire, I just have absolutely no desire to retire. I just feel that my creative gifts are still there, pumping away. They're keeping me going. Without my creativity, I'd be a mess, or more of a mess than I am. And all that keeps coming to me is screenplays, and I just love writing them. I've had so much joy and peace writing them, and in an hour or so, and probably not by the time you see this, it would have already happened, but we've had a run through of 3 of my 30-minute dramas, which would be the last act for me before going to this workshop conference type thing, which is in 10 days time, and I'm hoping that will be a new beginning. All I want to do is to create whatever it is. It doesn't have to be screenplays, it could be whatever God puts in front of me. I realise now it's only going to work on if I'm sort of independent in a certain way, not to be part of a ministry or whatever. But anyway, I won't want to say any more about that, but been a bit rambling. I might carry on part 2 next week. So Monica's calling me to eat something now, so I'll see you again next week. Bye.